The book of the prophet Joel. It's a short collection of prophetic poems that are both powerful and puzzling. Joel is unique among the prophets for a few reasons. First of all, there's no explicit indication of when this book was written. It's most likely the period of Ezra and Nehemiah, after the return from the exile, because he mentions Jerusalem and the temple, but there doesn't seem to be any kings. Also unique is that Joel is clearly familiar with many other scriptural books. He alludes to or quotes from the prophets Isaiah, Amos, Zephaniah, Nahum, Obadiah, Ezekiel, Malachi, even the book of Exodus. And this is connected with the last unique feature, and that's that Joel never accuses Israel of any specific sin. So, like many of the other prophets, he announces that God's judgment is coming to confront Israel's sin, but he never says why. And that's most likely because Joel assumes that, like him, you have been reading the books of the prophets, and so you already know all about Israel's rebellion. Now, altogether, these three features help us understand this fascinating little book. That Joel is a biblical author who was himself immersed in earlier biblical writings, and his reflection on them helped him make sense of the tragedies of his day, but also they gave him hope for the future.
Remember, remind, and resist. I believe God is calling us to do three things in this passage. Remember, remind, and resist. First, we must remember that everyone, regardless of their label, is valued and loved by God. No one is less than another for any reason. Second, we must remind others and teach this to others so that the whole earth can be filled with the love of God. Third, we must resist. We must resist any person, principality, or power that even dares to say something different. A day is coming when God will wipe away every tear from our eyes and every evil from the earth. But until such time, we must remember we are all equally valuable. We must remind others of this truth, and we must resist anyone or anything that speaks otherwise.
The sun shall be turned to darkness and the moon to blood. That line really stuck out to me. To all those that don't think 2020 can get any worse. Anyway, so the word apocalypse came to mind and I did a little bit of research and I was surprised to find out that it actually doesn't mean the end of the world. It's a Greek word meaning to uncover. I also decided to watch a Bible Project video on the word, and it refers to when God uncovers the eyes of people who have been blinded by society and how they perceive things. So God did this for many people, including Joel. He uncovered Joel's eyes so that he could properly communicate to the Israelites. Also, there seems to be a running pattern of the sun turning to darkness or the moon becoming blood. It was referred to in Luke when Jesus died and everything kind of went a little haywire. And it was also referred to in Revelation when things will get a little bit interesting. Anyway, I only had a minute to talk, so I hope that you took something away from what I said, and I also hope that you do a little more research on the topic.
Good morning, everyone. I think this is a prophecy about the kinds of things that will happen before Jesus comes again. Lots of people will receive gifts of prophecy and have meaningful visions and dreams. It's not the important persons of the world that are receiving these gifts, but everyone. old people, young people, male and female persons. This passage mostly talked about coming of Jesus, so it gave me hope. When I read this passage, I felt enlightened and saved. Some people might feel a little frightened because of the images in this passage, but there is hope because it says that everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. That's what I think about Joel chapter 2 verse 28 to 32.
The passage taken from the book of Joel chapter 2 verses 28 to 32 discusses 4 different themes. In verse 28, there is a focus on the promise of the Spirit to all. Then in verse 29, God promises equal access of His Spirit to us all. And then in verses 30 to 31, there is a focus on judgment for all. And lastly, in the final verse, there is future hope for all. In light of the recent events, witnessing continuous racial inequality and injustice in the United States, as well as the world, and the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Yemen, where we're seeing food insecurity and financial insecurity, I feel like this passage is very relevant to what we are going through now. After reading this passage, it reaffirmed my faith that when God returns, He will not judge us based on the color of our skin or by the amount of money that we make. Instead, He will look at the contents within our hearts to see if we truly believe in Him and have faith in Him during the good and bad times of life, especially during the midst of this ongoing coronavirus pandemic, and also during our own internal crises. We must remember our true mission, which is to remember to maintain, develop, and restore a healthy relationship with Christ, and to continue to spread the gospel wherever we go. God bless you all.